All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome. I hope everybody is doing well tonight. Tonight we have some good visual updates to go over, and we have a little bit of looking to do on our to-do list because we've closed off some stuff. So lots of good stuff going on tonight. I'm hoping to actually cross off the final item that's left on our to-do list for version 0.8. So we'll see where we wind up with that in just a moment. But before I do that, just want to take a quick second to thank the supporters of the channel, beginning with our elite partner, who is Javier Olazaran, as well as our partners, Grabolis Inc. and Matt Osgard. Those are the highest tiers of subscription over on YouTube memberships and Patreon. I'd also like to thank all the other supporters listed here. They are a combination of the other tiers of support over on YouTube memberships, Patreon, as well as Twitch supporters. So thank you all very much for your support. It is greatly appreciated. And I hope it goes without saying that I appreciate all of you viewers, whether you're here joining us live on stream or whether you are joining us after the fact with the VODs. I appreciate each and every one of you guys. Without you guys, this project would not exist. The channel would not exist. So obviously, thank you guys very much for that. Okay. Just fine-tuning a couple of quick things here on my setup, and then we can go over what we have done offline. Okay, so where we left off last time is we were troubleshooting a really annoying issue. I have the good news of I figured out what that issue is, and it was really stupid and not related whatsoever to anything we were looking at on the stream, which is always nice. I guess we can kind of touch on that really quickly. I guess let me try running this one more time. My GPU has been giving me issues again today, so let me just run this. All right, and we'll load up. We see that everything here is loading as expected. Let me just full screen this so you guys can see it. So we've got pretty much everything running and loaded as expected and required, with a couple of exceptions that I'll get to in just a second. But we're basically back to where we were before we did the refactor, but we're in a lot better shape because now all of our systems are sort of doing things the same way. Everything's very extensible. It'll be easy to add new types of resources, new handlers, things of that nature. Definitely a strong step in the right direction there. All right, obviously you can see here that we've got like our debug grid working, our skybox is working, all of our different various lighting modes work, our normals mode works, our cascading shadow map viewer works, and of course our wireframe works as well. So all of that is good. There are a couple of things we're probably going to have to address as we are tackling the actual game project itself, but I think we're at a really strong position to move forward at this point. Minus the one thing that I had to talk about. So, with that, I do want to just take a quick second and go over what the actual issue was that I was looking at for so long last time. And then we'll hit this to-do list after that and take a look through that. Sakelos Music, good to see you. Smudge, good to see you as well. How are you doing? Thank you very much for the tier 1 sub, by the way. Really appreciate that. It was a, let's see it. Oh, there's a gift sub to Sakelos. That's awesome. That's really awesome of you. So thank you for doing that. I appreciate that. That's super awesome of you. Okay, so, thank you for the follow, Ozzy. Appreciate that. Welcome. I love all the emote use there. Sakelos, that's hysterical. All right, let's see, attachment. I think it was actually, you know what, let me go to pipeline. It was in pipeline create. So the issue was actually in here, which is nowhere near where I thought it was actually going to be. And I still think there's something in here that's not quite right, but things seem to be working for now. So I'm going to roll with it as it is. But there's a whole bunch of stuff in the graphics pipeline that we have to set up, viewport state, rasterizer, blah, blah, blah. This is all good. Where the issue came in to play was around the depth stencil and the color attachments. And this was actually basically I think it was like a 2-line fix. So what we were doing was we were always checking to see if we had depth stencil testing or writing enabled and all that stuff when we were setting compare masks and all of the various properties, right? And so let me just, my Discord keeps bleating at me. It didn't detect that I'm streaming for some reason. Okay. So we set up all of this stuff, and we did this conditionally for the depth stencil buffer, but we did not do it conditionally for the color buffer. The pipeline was always assuming that there would be a color buffer, or a color attachment rather, for every single pipeline that we create, which is not the case. So we actually have, right now we only have one pass that doesn't do that, or one render graph node, whatever you want to call it, render pass, right? And that is the shadow map generation that only writes to a depth texture, does not have a color attachment. And so this is what was actually causing the issue. And so I added a check here to say, hey, do we have any color attachments before actually doing all of this stuff? And then I think that might have been, yeah, there's one more line down here. So where we do the color blend state, we say, hey, if we have a color attachment account, then we use the blend state. Otherwise, we zero it out. The second I made that change, it fixed all the rendering issues we were having. And in our app config, we do not have in our renderer, we do not have to have validation on. So I can just turn this off real quick. I do leave it on by default because, you know, obviously when we're troubleshooting issues, it's very helpful. And so if I run this again, we can see that we have our UI and all of our stuff that we expect. And if I load this up, we can see that everything appears here as we would expect. And so obviously having validation layers off, if we don't really need them to be running, if we're not running into any sort of issues around that, is great because obviously everything runs a lot faster. You know, if I turn VSync off, for example, you'll notice that the frame rate jumps up a bit. Now, we do have some optimizations that need to be made around this. So obviously our frame rate is not very good right now. We're getting about 200 frames a second, which is not great, right? So we do need to do some a little bit of performance work there, right? One thing though that is definitely dragging everything down is this whole spawns object's got about 400 meshes in it, and we're drawing that a total of 3 times because of the water plane, right? So we have to draw it once for the refraction texture, once for the reflection texture, and then a 3rd time for the actual scene render itself. So you know, as soon as we take that out of view, the frame rate jumps up a little bit. So we also need to probably do a little bit of profiling around some of our image barriers and things like that, our memory barriers, because I think we've got some weights in there that we could probably get rid of, or at least fine tune a little bit more. But that was the issue. We also get our gizmo is back, right? It fixed all of that as well, so I can, you know, move things around in the scene just like we could before. And also the raycast little debug squares come back, right? So it shows you exactly where the collision point was when it's selecting an object, right? And then, of course, yellow is it actually collided with something, and magenta means that it just went off into the distance and didn't find anything. So all of those things seem to be working just fine now. So we're in much better shape than we were in the last stream. And there wasn't a terrible amount of code to do that. So I've got the commits already pushed up to the repo if you guys want to see those. I'm not going to go through those in detail aside from discussing what the issue was that we found. So the weird part about that is this code has been this way since we initially wrote the renderer, all the way back in the beginning of the series. And for some reason, it never manifested until now. Also, the validation layers did not catch this as a potential issue. So, yeah, I've considered maybe rolling my own validation layers, or maybe extending the existing ones to try and catch this. But the fact that having validation turned on fixed the problem also made it a little bit more complicated. So I may get to that at some point, but it's probably going to be a while before we do so. Okay. Let me catch up on comments. Obligatory emote spam when I get a sub. I get that. Don't mind me just claiming my channel points. Nice. Three stream streak. Excellent. Appreciate that. From Lake over there on the YouTube side, how are you doing? Celebrations. I'm a 2-year member. Has it been 2 years already? That's awesome. I appreciate that, From Lake. Thank you very much for that support. Singy, it's good to see you as well. Hello. RCW, how are you? Good evening. Okay, so we discussed the issue. I've shown you guys the thing running. I have confirmed that works on Windows and Linux, by the way. There is still a Mac OS issue, but I'm not concerned about that for reasons I'm going to talk about later. All right, so roadmap discussion. Let me actually kill this other buffer. All right, so roadmap discussion. I have gone through and punted a bunch of things to the next release because we don't technically need them to start on our game project, and I'm really itching to get going on that. So I have just a couple of things left here to do. I'm hoping that we can complete most, if not all of that tonight. We'll see where we wind up. So we have a couple of things that I did offline. I did go ahead and set up a binary resource handler. All that really is doing is just piping through binary data from an asset to an actual resource that we can load. We already actually had the struct set up and everything. I just had to connect the dots on that one. So that was done. So the only other thing that we need, if you notice here, a lot of this stuff is checked off. The only section that isn't checked off, actually, is this new resource system bit. And so we have removed the old resource system after it's decommissioned. And then we have the scene resource handler. I don't recall if we've written a asset handler for that. So that may actually be an item we have to add. No, it appears we did. And a serializer for it. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to switch to using that and get a resource handler written for that, and then switch everything over to use that instead. And that is actually the last thing that we're going to handle for right now. Everything else here is checked off, right? Couple things that I've moved out to the next release is, let's see, where is it? Oh, it's weird. It's not in here. Terrains are in here, right? So we're not going to handle terrains right now, but I need to add it. Right, so this is going to be a couple things. So we need a asset handler, and we also need a serializer. And then under resources, we also have terrain, which I think I did add it under here, maybe? Height map terrain, right. Yeah, I suppose I should probably call that height map terrain. Okay, so that will be done in the next release. And the reason for that is because blended materials are in the next release, which is right here. And so that's basically, you can think of that as your multi-layer or multi-materials, right? And terrains have that as a requirement. So what we're going to do is we're just going to punt that off to the next release because we don't need that to start our game. We can add it sort of in the middle if and when we actually need it. We can go ahead and do that. I don't think blended materials are going to be something that we are going to heavily use in the first game. So I think we can do without that. So we're going to start on this tonight, specifically the scene handler. I do want to look really quickly. So we do need to create a resource handler, which I think is really just going to wind up being a pass-through. I don't think it's going to have to do much of anything in terms of actually performing the work of loading a scene, right? That's going to be up to our scene itself to handle that. Let's see. Under our... I guess this would be under core we need to look. Well, maybe. Yeah, let's keep all that in runtime. I think that makes the most sense. All right, so we do have an asset handler scene here. Let me just make sure that there's actually something in it. Okay. Typed attachments. Okay. And destroy node. Did we finish this is my question. This is the release. Okay. Here's the serializer. Yep, this looks pretty complete. Serialize attachment. Okay. Yeah, this looks pretty complete. Hopefully we've got this all sorted. Hopefully this just works. It looks like we've done a lot of the work here. So that's good. So I guess what we really need to do is let's just take a look in the scene C file. We have scene serialized node. Pretty sure that this is all already transferred over as well. Is that it? Let's see. So I guess scene initialize works right now off of a scene config. So we are going to have to change that over. But I'm willing to bet that the scene config and the scene asset, at least for now, look remarkably alike. So let's actually split that view, and then we'll do asset types. Okay, so here is our scene. I just have to refresh my memory because it's been a bit since we actually since we actually did this. Okay, so I need scene config, which I think yeah, looks pretty much like this, right? So we have a description. Base has a name in it. We don't need resource name or path because that's all part of the base asset. And then nodes. So yeah, it looks like this should pretty much be a drop-in replacement to go from scene config to a K asset scene, as far as what I can tell. Thank you for the stretch redeem. Appreciate that. Let's see. Came across your stream, very nice. First time chatter. Welcome, Cironux. Ciro Unux. Hope I pronounced that right. By the way, I thought you should know I finally broke my API cherry, got Fmod working and in Godot after psyching myself out about it for months now. It only took me about a year after asking you about audio engines. That's awesome, Sikelos. That is really awesome. You should be proud of yourself. That's super cool. Good stuff. Still makes me laugh thinking about the day I asked about making an audio engine, and I basically just TLDR said, yeah, no, don't do that. Yeah. I'm going to be kind of doing that here, so you'll see all the reasons not to do that. Always follow your dreams unless your dreams are to develop an audio engine. Then let somebody else live your dream. That's very funny. Thank you for the follow, by the way. Okay, so I believe all of this stuff is just a direct drop-in replacement. So what I think I might do, because I wrote this kind of when I was thinking about having like all these duplicated types back and forth. You know, one set of types for K asset, one set of types for K resource, and then one set of types for the thing that actually uses it. I decided that's dumb, and I'm not going to do that. So I might actually move some of this stuff to like resource types, and then have the asset sort of reference that, but because I really don't want to use like the K asset scene everywhere, right? Well, K asset scene is fine, but like all of the other properties here are not great, right? So we have like all of these types here, which are essentially the same thing as over here, with a couple of exceptions, right? So we have like some base properties here for all of them. Yeah, so I might, how do I want to do that though? Also, this was before I switched everything to K names, so I need to switch that too. Okay. Not a huge deal, but what I think I'm going to start with actually, and this resource types file is actually an older version of the resources file. This is for the old resource system, and you'll see that there's not much in here anymore. Because as I'm replacing all these things with the new asset types and new resource types, I've been pulling them out of this file. So we're probably going to decommission this file tonight too, I'm hoping. Yeah, because we have resource type in there, which most of these are defunct at this point. Resource magic, I think that's been defined elsewhere. Resource header, resource, like all those things can go. So this, from here down, I think is just all scene stuff. And that's the only thing we have in here. So, I guess let's take all of, do I want to put it in resource types? I think that makes the most sense. K resource types. Yeah, these are literally all the same thing. We just have a couple of different couple of different types in here that have been added. So terrain, these are out of order too. Oh, and I have an unknown here too, which doesn't exist here, probably should. So I'm going to stick with this order. So let's go with, we'll put skybox after unknown. Then we'll do directional lights. Then static mesh, that's there. Then height map terrain. Height map. Height map terrain. And then, oh, point light is above static mesh. Then water plane, and then attachment type count, right? So we can do that, right? And what we'll do, so we have that, we have scene node attachment type. Right, we always put the type first as sort of the base. Should I stick with that? Do we need that? I would almost argue that we don't. And also our attachments have resource information in them. Which they don't necessarily always need. Do I want to keep the resource name? Actually, I guess I kind of need it, right? Because that comes in when we load the scene, and then the scene has to say, hey, give me this resource. So I guess that does make sense. All right. I think what I might do is actually just literally take these types out of here. What other types do we have in here? Where is stuff like texture channel? Core render types. So I guess it makes sense for something like texture channel. Do we have something in core? Assets. We don't really have any sort of core resource types in here. Because I hate to tie resources to like asset types, right? Or tie asset types to resources. I definitely don't want to do that. And so I feel like everything that's in here except for the actual scene asset type itself, this. Everything except this type needs to go, I think. Okay, so what do we have in here? We just have a bunch of names, node configurations. I think we can move all of these types actually to core. I think that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to create a new file, and we're going to call it core resource types .h. And I'm going to take all of these. Attachment type strings. I don't know if I need this lookup anymore, but I'm going to take it anyways. So I'm going to take all of this all the way down to, but not including scene. And we're going to put it over here. All right. And then I'm going to rename this to just scene node attachment type. Right, and I'm just going to do that all the way down. Clear this highlight, it's being kind of annoying. Scene node attachment type. Right. Okay, and then, oops. So scene node, oh, our static assert doesn't exist because we need is that under debug? Yes, okay. So we need that. And then remove the K asset from that, and that should be good. And I guess what we can do here is we could just do a find and replace. Thank you for the follow. I love the name, by the way. It's deeply hilarious. Magetz, how's it going? Long time no see. Hope you're doing well. What about a radiance volume? Yeah, I mean, eventually we're going to have other types, right, that we're going to be adding to all of this, but, so we're going to say K asset scene, and we're just going to replace it with scene. Vec4, that's going to be math types. And actually, we're in core, so that should be, is it not used directly? Oh, because I'll bet math types uses it. Or maybe it's indirectly included somehow. Must be. All right, I guess we don't need that then. Okay. Did that cover everything? I think it did. Cool. All right, so the other thing I'm going to do is instead of using strings for all these names, we actually want them imported as k-names. So if I can type. So we're going to use k-names for this instead of strings. So there's a few of those in here that I just have to get rid of. Here's another one. Here's another one. And xform source. String representation of an xform processed by the scene when needed. That one I might leave as an actual string. Because creating xforms gets a little bit weird if we do it here. So I think that one I'm actually going to leave as a string. And then we just have a struct scene node array of children. Okay. So that should be fine. Let me go back to it was resource types. Resource types, and I'm going to get rid of all of. Nope, not core resource types. Wait a minute. I want this one. This is the old one. So we're going to go here. We're going to go all the way down to the bottom. And I'm going to leave. Nope, you know what? I'm going to get rid of those too. Let's get rid of that. So all that's left in here is just the generic header stuff, right? And pretty soon we're going to nuke that entire file. So, thank you for the follow, by the way. Welcome. Hope you're doing well. Okay. Let me think. So K asset types, the only thing we have here is this, and this just needs to be a scene node. And we don't have that type, so we need to include core resource types, and that needs to be, let's see, this is going to be, yeah, that's fine. Okay. So now we have a K asset scene. And our K resource scene will be pretty much a direct copy of this. So I guess let me go to do I want core resource types? No, I think I want K resource types. I didn't have one yet. Okay, so now we need to go all the way to the bottom and create a new struct K resource scene. Right, and this is basically going to be just a copy of, I guess it's just going to be these two. And we want a K resource base. And then of course we need a request structure for it, even though it's not going to have anything fancy in it yet. We still need one, that way we don't have to potentially create one later. Oops, that should be K resource scene request info. Oops, there's one off there. There we go. Okay, so we have that. I guess we could just also do really quickly. Represents a scene resource. Okay, so the only thing that we're going to eventually wind up with for a scene is going to be node count and base. And then I guess we also have a description, which we will keep in string format, I suppose. Okay, we may have to add to that, but that's basically what the resource looks like for now. So what we're going to do to add the new resource handler is we need to go over to, let's see, what would be a good example for us to go off of, something that's relatively simple. I guess we could do, we're going to need to serialize this one, right? So maybe we should base this off of the, let's base this off the shader handler. Rather than writing the whole thing from scratch, I'm just going to copy this. So we're going to call this scene, and then we're going to copy the C file as well. Right, and this is going to basically just involve starting with a find and replace. So we're going to say we're going to start with that, and then we're going to open the C file and we're going to do the same thing. And then we'll start from the top. So on allocate, we're going to change the type to K resource scene. Actually, we might want to do a find and replace on that as well. So let's do a K resource shader to K resource. Oops, K resource scene. And then we'll also do for asset. All right. So, allocate type, k resource scene, memory tag resource, that's fine. Here's the request. So I don't think there's going to be too much we're going to have to actually change in here. This is going to be a different rule, right? So we always have to have at least one asset whenever we request this. I suppose we could say that the resource name and the asset name have to be the same. One thing that we don't want to do is we don't want to do this deserialized sort of in line here, right? That's not going to happen. So what we're going to do is we're going to get rid of that. And then we're going to get rid of the else and just say that, right? Requires exactly one asset. And then the rest of this goes away. All right. Comments kind of useless. All right. Dynamically allocating this. So this is our shader resource handler info. Okay, so that's this structure up here. Let's keep this for now, but I'm going to rename it. So we're going to call this scene resource handler info. Why did it? Okay, that's not what I wanted. There. And then this is just going to be that's typed resource is going to be okay resource scene, pointer to the handler, pointer to the request info, and a pointer to the asset. Okay. So we do that, we set that up. That's all going to be the same. There's no need for initialization versus loading because this is basically just taking an already deserialized asset at this point and just converting it to a resource to pass off to another system. So we don't need that. This needs to be scene. We're just going to pass off the asset name, the package name. Maybe that's what we should do. Let's actually do I'm debating if we should just have to fill out this assets thing or not, or just use the name. And if we just use the name, then we need also the package name, which also the asset stuff requires. Think. I guess we could just require it that way. So if we go through asset request info, why are we not just using, we should probably just be using assets sub-0, I'm thinking. All right, so let's do this. Let's take a copy of that. Right, so let's do info, assets, data, sub-0. asset request info. This is going to be, wait a minute, that's not asset request info? I thought it was. Oh, it's not. Okay. All right, so let's just do, what is this? K resource asset info. Okay, so we want the address of that. And then we can change this back to how it was. But instead of resource name, we can just use asset name, asset package name, auto release true. Yeah, I guess that's fine. Listener instance callback, shader k asset on result. Yeah, we need to rename that. So this should be that. Synchronous, that's fine. We're not going to do hot reloading of scenes. And I don't think we need import parameters. Okay, so that is the request. So that gets fired off to the asset system where it gets loaded from disk, deserialized into the asset that we expect, and then it will call this function here. We'll come back to release. Well, I guess we should look at what needs to be released here. So I think the only thing we have to do is recursively destroy the nodes, right? Why is that not? Close the buffer. Okay. So I guess we could have a small static function here that does that for us. If typed resource nodes and type resource node count, then we're going to do for u32i equals 0, I is less than typed resource node count plus plus I. And then we're going to need, there's a type on this, that's just a scene node. So we'll do static destroy scene node. That's going to be return type void, and it's going to be scene node. We'll call it root. Obviously, if root, check that first, and then if root children and root child count, u32 I equals 0, I is less than root child count plus plus I, and then for each one of these we'll do destroy scene node, address of root children sub I. All right. And then the actual destruction itself just needs to take care of a couple things. So we can say if root, let's see, I think name is a k name. I think the only thing we have to do is attachments and then get rid of the xform source. So if the xform source exists, then we'll do string free root xform source, root xform source equals 0, and then we'll do if root attachments and root attachment count I'm just going to copy this because I don't feel like typing that again. Except this time it's going to be attachment count and attachments. Attachments themselves. Just have a name and a type. So actually we don't even need to do anything with those unless we add something later. That might not actually be true. Let me see. It might vary by attachment type, actually. Let's see. Do we have any dynamically allocated memory in here for attachment types? I don't think we actually do, so I think that's actually a good thing. But what I'll do is I'll leave myself a note in the code. So we're going to say switch. And then we'll do root attachments sub-I type, right? And we'll just do this, and then note add any required destruction required here. All right, we don't have to do anything, but at least this way, everything's already in place. So if we do have some sort of resource that needs to be destroyed there, we can do it. All right, so after we're done with that loop, then we can do k-free type C array, and this is going to be scene attachment. Whoops. We need the root attachments array first, then that, then the count, which is root attachment count, right? And then we can do root attachment count equals 0, root attachments equals 0. We'll need to do the same thing down here, incidentally, after we do the children array. Children, so this is going to be scene node, and then children count. This is going to be children count, and then children. Okay. So this is nice and recursive, so that all we have to do is then come here and say destroy scene node, and we can do the address of typed resource nodes sub-I. And that is all the cleanup we have to do. Get rid of all the rest of this. And I think that's the only cleanup we have to worry about, which isn't all that much, thankfully. Okay, so the next thing that we do is we handle the on result. So that's whenever the asset comes back from the VFS, which should be thought of as an asynchronous operation, right? So it could happen at any point. And so what we do is we perform this asset to resource, which is basically where we take all the asset properties and convert them over to the typed resource. In our case, it's actually going to be dead simple because we're actually just going to do straight memory copies of the whole thing, which should simplify it greatly. Let's see. I think I have it redeem over here on the Twitch side. Pet on stream, redeem. Okay, I know I'm a little bit late with that. Sorry, I got coding and lost track of time there. I do have a pet over there. Let me go get her real quick. Okay. Let me see if I can just switch to the camera only here. There we go. So here is my pet on stream. She's angry because I just woke her up, but this is my older cat, Pumpkin. She's about 14 years old. She's a Japanese bobtail. She's a little congested right now. You guys can probably hear that. She gets allergies, so she's allergic to pretty much everything, just like I am. But yeah, this is her. I've had her for ever since she was a kitten. And yeah, like I said, she'll be happy when I put her back down. But there we go. She's looking right at the camera. Love this little kitty to death. She's definitely mine too. You know, she chose me. You got a stuck claw. Yeah, I know. You got a stuck claw. I know. All right. She's getting grumpy. I'm gonna put her back. Sorry, kitty. There you go. She got her claw stuck on my shirt and didn't like it very much. All right. Yeah, she is nice. She's just unfortunately her claw got like stuck in the corner of my shirt, and that's why she was getting mad. I have to leave her claws kind of long because the other cat messes with her, and she's got to have a way to sort of, you know, swipe at him. Anyway, thank you for the redeem. I do appreciate that. Okay, so we were about to go into asset to resource, I think. Is there anything else in here? I think this is just yeah, this is just asset cleanup afterwards. Okay, so we can actually look at this guy, which is going to be where the bulk of our work is, and we don't even have this much stuff to do. So what I'm going to do is we're going to get, we already have the asset and the out, that's called out shader resource. We should probably rename that. I'm actually going to delete all of this stuff except that very last bit, because I do need to make sure that this is marked as loaded. All right, so we'll rename this, and we'll say out scene resource. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take a look at, I guess we can do a description first, right? So if we have a description, then out scene resource description equals string duplicate string. Oh, do I not have it? There it is. Assets description. Right, so we'll take a copy of that. If, whoops, I guess it's just nodes and node count, right? So if nodes and node count, then we're going to essentially loop through those. So I'm actually just going to do, I'm going to do this. I'm going to change it up a little bit. So this is going to be asset nodes and asset node count, asset node count, and then asset nodes, right? And what we're going to do is we are going to say copy scene node, right? And we're going to do resource, out scene resource nodes sub I. And of course, before we actually write that, we need to come up here and do out scene resource nodes equals kalloc type C array. The type is going to be scene node, and the count is going to be asset node count, right? And then out scene resource node count is going to be asset node count. Okay. I suppose we could actually put this up here, right? The node count, we could put that there. Why do we have this check in here twice? Did I copy pasta that somehow? I guess so. Okay. So we create the nodes array, then we go through and we copy each one. We need to write. This is going to be return type void. Copy scene node. And the first thing it's going to take is a scene node. We'll call it source, and then scene node, we'll call it target. Right? And actually, I guess we could be const correct about this one, right? We could just do that, and then all we're going to do is essentially go through and take a copy of the arrays and the data that is included within that. We could just do a straight memory copy, but the problem with that is, if we were to just copy the whole the nodes array, then we would also be copying the attachments array and reusing that pointer or reusing that memory, which we don't want to do. We want a unique copy of the internal arrays as well, which is the reason that we're doing it this way. So the first thing we'll do is we'll say if source, well, I guess it's both the children and attachments, right? So I guess we'll do attachments first. So if attachments and source attachment count, right? We're going to say, well, actually, I guess we could say target attachment count equals source attachment count. And then we'll do target attachments equals kalloc type C array. This is going to be scene attachment count is going to be target attachment count, right? And then we can do a k copy memory of this because it's just a one-dimensional array, right? So what we can do here is we could just do the destination is going to be target attachments. The source is going to be source attachments. And the size is going to be size of scene attachment times target attachment count. Right? What do we mean? Scene node attachment. Oh. I've been using the wrong type down here. So this needs to be scene node attachment. Did I do that anywhere else? I did. That needs to be a scene node attachment. Okay, that was the only one. All right. Okay, so copy scene node would take a copy of the attachments array. That we can just copy the whole block of memory. But then we have to iterate the children array, right? So target child count equals source child count, right? And then if source child count and source children, then we actually have to do basically this same bit again, right? So we're going to do source child count, and then we're going to do source children sub I, and we're going to do target children sub I, right? And what that's going to do is recurse back into this function here and take a copy of everything that we need. Now, the only other thing that we'll have to do is we'll have to create an array. I'll just copy pasta this. So this is going to be children. And this is what? This is just scene node. Right? And then child count. Right? So we create the array. Then we loop through the source children, copy them to the target children, which does all of this recursively. I think I've got that right. So that's our assets resource, right? That is basically our entire K resource handler. I don't think there's anything else we really need to do in there. That is pretty much it. Cats always entangle themselves and then get mad when they're stuck. Yes, they do. 100%. LSR, how's it going? Good to see you. It has been a bit. Project's coming along good. We are actually, hopefully tonight, actually completing the refactor. We're moving the last resource type over to the new resource system. And then once that has been verified working, I'm going to rip out the old resource system and then we're done. Yeah, we've actually made some pretty good progress for sure. Let's see, I'm trying to make audio work on my also backend. Oof, that already sounds way more than I want to deal with. Having some troubles, having more troubles with it than Pipewire. That does not surprise me. Funnily enough, Pipewire backend was simpler to get up and running. I've heard that before. Pipewire API design tries a bit too much to be this JS style async functional thingy. It's okay, but I don't like writing callbacks outside the main code in C. Fortunately, I'm using C++, so you can write simple lambdas and they work as C callbacks. Yeah, that's true. I don't mind doing that when it's necessary for like async stuff, but I do feel like it can be overused for sure. Okay. Ethan over on the YouTube side. Hello. How are you doing? Welcome and good to see you. Okay, so the resource handler is done. Let me just search for the word shader here because there are a couple that I missed, it looks like. This just needs to be... Oops. Out... scene resource, I think I said it was. And then don't need hot reloading and scene config. That's true. And then there we go. Okay. All right, so I think we're good to go as far as that goes. Let me just go into the K resource system and register it. So we have, since we based it off the shader handler, I'm going to copy pasta this, and I'm going to put it down here. And this is going to be the scene handler. And basically all I have to do is just swap out these guys here. So one more there, and this one. And then we have to include, and that's it. It's registered. So now whenever we make a request to the resource system for a scene, we can actually get the right thing. Now, I guess I should probably do a look for resource type scene, because how did we actually... We have scene config here, which is actually gone now. Let's take a look at the scene type, actually, because I think we are keeping that scene config. And we don't actually need to do that. That is actually going to wind up being replaced by a K-resource scene. And this is going to be the scene configuration resource. Perfect. Okay. So there's that. Scene create is going to be scene resource config. Pointer to the configuration resource. Optional, because we don't necessarily have to have one to create a scene, right? We can create a scene in code. What are the warnings here? What do we have? Scene xform. Ooh, did I nuke a type that I needed? I might have done. I might have done. Let me undo some stuff in here. That right there. This one needs to be over here. Apparently there wasn't an equivalent. Well, that was a scene node config though. You know what? I'm going to do away with that structure actually on second thought. Thank you for the follow. I appreciate that. Welcome. Yeah, let's just do away with this. We're just going to go back to parsing that directly, which we might already actually be doing elsewhere. Okay, so we have some errors to fix in this file, obviously. Let's see. So we have resource types. This actually should be core resource types now. And that is not in runtime, that's in core. So we actually need to separate this out. I actually need to do that on all the includes in here. But I digress. We've got a bunch of deprecated stuff. We need to get rid of that. That's fine. Scene create. So this is going to be K-resource scene. All that needs to be done there. K-resource scene for that too. Oh, we're not going to take a copy of that, actually. We're just going to take a pointer to it because the resource system owns it. So we actually need I think the config was just passed in. It didn't used to be a pointer is what it was. So now we can just do that. Okay, resource name and resourceful path. These do not exist anymore. That's all embedded in the resource info. So we can actually get rid of that, which is good. Don't save off the config beyond the scene being loaded. Destroy the config once the loading is complete. Okay, that's no longer relevant. Okay. To do remove this, scene destroy. Did I, okay. I'm gonna have to come back to that and investigate. All right, so scene node config. Scene node initialize. So we don't have a scene node config anymore. We just have scene nodes. which makes me wonder. Node config name. Scene node metadata. This is an internal type, so this should be all k-names too. So we're trying to do away with using strings everywhere in here, right? We'll do the same thing here. Okay. That got rid of a lot of errors, which I wasn't expecting. That's kind of weird. Oh wait, no, here they are. Okay. So the name is a k-name there, and we should have a k-name there. So we don't need the string duplicate. Whoops. We don't need the string duplicate anymore. It's just a name, just a k-name, right? Move this over here. I am doing well, Ethan. Thank you for asking. Just started to learn Vulkan. Do you recommend any other resources besides your series? Yes. So there's vulkan.dev, which is a pretty good site. Vulkan tutorial's okay, but more than anything else, I recommend that you read the spec. And I know how that sounds. I know how tedious it is. I've read it dozens of times myself at this point. But yeah, it seriously is the best resource for Vulkan stuff, right? It's really the way to learn it is to do kind of do it the hard way, right? Don't try and shortcut it. Is the best advice I can offer there. Because if you try to shortcut it, you're going to be missing knowledge. But as far as wrapping your head around the initial concepts, it's okay to do tutorials. Just don't stick to them too long, right? And that's why this series started off as a tutorial series and it isn't anymore. Is because, you know, that tutorials only get you so far. So this series is a bit of a primer on it, covers some things that some of the other tutorials don't cover. There's some things that I initially did on this series that you don't have to do anymore because Vulkan's changed and we've changed those things. But that's also true of some tutorials as well. So I would say probably just stick to like VK Guide or something like that. Yeah, no problem. Hope that helps anyway. Okay, so process the attachment configs. Also do this for attachments where needed. I don't know what that meant. I don't remember. All right, well, I'm not going to worry about it. Okay, so we're going to loop through our attachments. So this is just going to be scene node attachment. We don't have this config business anymore. And then we're going to do, let's see, scene node attachment type. We don't have the unknown? I thought we did. No, we don't. We should have that, because that's an error case that we need to handle. Scene node attachment type unknown. All right. Okay, so here is basically what we do is we loop through each of the attachments, we check the type, and we can do we can get the attachment type by simply casting the attachment. So if we take a look at this, the first field of all of these attachment types is the base, right? So we have the base here, and the first field in the base is this type, right? So if we actually just cast the structure itself to attachment type, we can then extract the type from that. Okay. So we're doing that. Attachment data. I'm trying to think of what used to be here. I think it's just, I think I could just cast this and I don't have to do this anymore. Attachment. Yeah, I don't think I have to do C node attachment, static mesh. I think it just wants me to do a cold cast here. Pointer. There. Okay. So resource name. In this case, it's called asset name. Okay. So it's pretty much just going to be going through and like looking at things like this and just changing references, right? So this is also going to be typed attachment config. Asset name. Oh, that's already a K name, so it doesn't need to be created. Because we are using strings all over the place, now we're using K names to avoid that. Okay, so this is going to be metadata, resource name. This is going to be asset name, right? K names on both sides, I believe. Mesh metadata. Yes. New static mesh. All right. This resource name, again, is just going to be asset name. No need to duplicate strings. Okay. Case. So we have attachment type terrain. This has to be changed to height map terrain. Fixes a lot of our errors there. And then this has to be, I think this also has to be height map terrain. And then we have to just cold cast this. Like so. And again, asset name. No string duplicate. Same thing here. Typed attachment base, whoops, name. New terrain config. Is this still a string? It is. So terrain config. Okay. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do K name string get. I'm going to go ahead and just pass that over there as that. And I suppose it's bleating about these not being constant strings. They probably should have been anyways. Terrains we're going to completely redo, so I'm not going to worry about using strings for that for right now. Okay, so this has to be height map terrain. If I could spell it right. All right, and this has to be asset name. And then the metadata name is also not a string duplicate. This just needs to be base name. Okay. One more for the terrain. Height map terrain. Asset name. Same thing here. Okay. Skybox. About half done with the error, so we don't have that much further to go. Let's see. All right, my gats, have a good one. Good to see you again. Thanks for stopping by. Should I take notes on the spec or just read it? Yes. I don't know what I did with mine, but I had a notebook similar to something like this, right? Just a, just a college-bound like notebook that I kept all of my Vulkan notes in when I was learning it back in like 2016, 2017, something like that. And I did make a lot of notes in there. But yeah, I mean, you're going to be referring to that spec all the time. So definitely, bookmark the crap out of it, But yeah, I like to take notes. One thing that I like to do also is I don't like to take notes for things on the computer. When I'm trying to learn something, I write it out because it makes it stick in my head better for some reason. I don't know why that is, but that just is the way it is. Okay, so we got to cold cast this guy. And let's see. Cube map name. This is going to be just asset name, I think, again. What did we call it? Cube map image asset name. That's what it was. We don't need a string duplicate here. Cube map config. Okay, Skybox is still using that, which is not great. We should definitely change that. That's going to have a little bit of fallout, but not huge. That means it's probably going to throw an error in the Skybox C file when we go to handle that. Okay, so cube map image asset name goes there. No string duplicates. And then same here. Right, and that's it for that one. And thankfully, I think for the rest of these types, we don't actually have to deal with assets at all. So these will be a little bit easier. So we'll take that, cold cast it. Yeah, that's all we actually had to do for that one. All right, so for point light data, we'll cold cast that. Water plane. Oh yeah, this one does have resources. I think. Or at least if it doesn't have resources, it's going to at some point. All right. Metadata reserved. Typed attachment. I think I had reserved in there because it literally had no sort of metadata for like reloading it. So I'm just gonna write that as a to-do. Not gonna worry about it for now. Okay. This is gonna be the same thing. So let's actually just do this. Right? So yes, we're pushing it anyways. We're not really using it, but we did that so that when we do have metadata to go along with that, which we will have, we don't have to worry about setting all this up then. Okay, I'm guessing the rest is probably having to do with serialization, maybe? Scene config. Config. That's all we really need to do there. Scene name. So this is still a string. So that needs to be a... I feel like this is one of the areas where I actually do want to use a string, because eventually we're gonna be like displaying this value on the screen somewhere, and I'll definitely be doing that with description. Maybe the name I'll keep. I'll keep it as use just the base name. Oops. Did it again. There we go. And we don't need the string duplicate for that. We do need for the description, so that's fine. That's a deprecation, which I think I'm going to actually undeprecate those, because I did initially want to get rid of them, but I don't think I'm going to do that anytime soon, actually. Here we go. Okay, so serialization, yes, last bit of this. So name node meta. We need to do a kname string get here on this. And I think this is going to wind up being the case a lot. So instead of resource name, it's going to be asset name. Maybe not. Incompatible. Wait a minute. Is a resource name? It's already a kname. Do we have add kname as string? Thought so. So let's take this, and instead of doing kname string get all over the place, we can add knames directly into ksim. So it'll do that for us, which is actually what we should do up here. So we'll take this, do that, and then I can get rid of this. And we'll just add the kname directly. Okay. So that's actually going to be probably a lot of the errors. I guess let me just go ahead and do that, and then I could just repeat it. Oh, okay. String to scene xform config. Do we actually call this anywhere? To scene xform config. Nope. Actually, I should probably search that globally. Only called in the scene loader. Cool. I don't think we need this anymore at all then. We're not actually using it. But instead of nuking it, I'm going to comment it out for now. Just in case we actually need it for some reason. Okay. So this is going to be save scene. This is going to be scene. Oops. Is it not? Oh. There we go. Scene resource full path. Okay, so we're going to do config base. We don't actually have the full path here. And we're doing a file system open and like writing it directly to disk here. So this might actually be a bit of a problem. Technically, it's an asset write. Which we haven't actually done yet. Excuse me. So one reason that we have our asset system is so that we don't have to worry about stuff like this, right? We should never have to do this in our game code or in somewhere like this, right? Writing directly to disk. It's just insanity. Do we have... I don't think we actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I know our VFS has the ability to write out, but I don't think our asset system does. Only via an importer. So, what I'm going to have to do... First off, let me undo this, actually. I'm going to turn this off for now. Right. We're going to do to-do. Request the asset system to write the scene asset via resource system. We'll have to see. I may need to retain a pointer to the actual asset as well for this one, since it's kind of a writable thing. I'm going to put this up here, and I'm also going to comment this out. We're going to come back to that. This means that scene saving is broken for right now, but we'll come back and fix it after we're sure that the loading works. Okay, so we have a couple of errors in here. I'm going to remove file system because we don't want that. To remove this, perfect. See ya. Let's see, where? Here we go. Scene node initialize. So node config xform form source, right? Let me see. Thank you guys for the follows. I appreciate that. Welcome. Let's see. Denny's, first time chat, welcome. Hello, I'll study programming for the first time in March, probably C, but I don't know which one particularly. And I'm really afraid because people tell me it's very difficult. So, difficult is relative, right? It depends on how much experience you have programming other things. But what I will say is that if you start with C and you learn that and you get really good with it, other programming languages will be so much easier to pick up. It won't even be funny. So, yes, there's a little bit of a barrier to entry there, but I usually recommend that people do, in fact, start with C, especially C over C++, right? C++ is way more complex. C is actually a pretty simple language. It just has a few concepts you have to wrap your head around to really get a handle on things. But yeah, I would say if you start with C, you're going to be way better off long term, even if it is a little bit more difficult in the beginning. In your first year of aerospace engineering, you're probably going to need to know C then, I would imagine. Because I would imagine a lot of that embedded stuff is probably written in C, if not in assembly directly. C isn't necessarily difficult, but you'll benefit greatly from understanding a bit of computer architecture first IMO. Yes. I mean, if you're going to university, you'll probably have like a CS50 course or something like that. But you can always look that up on YouTube, and that's got pretty good explanations of stuff there too. Let's see. I also like taking notes on paper. I'm pretty sure it's proven that writing on paper allows for easier memorization. Yeah, that's what I do when I have to memorize stuff because my memory is rubbish. I forget stuff all the time. Just ask my wife. She's a saint, by the way, super patient with me. But yeah, if I want to remember something, I have to physically write it down. And even then, it doesn't always work, but it's much higher chance. This guy's a genius. Who? Certainly not me. Hey, first time catching the stream live. Just wanted to say I've been learning Vulkan lately, and this series has been super valuable resource. So thanks. Awesome. I'm glad it's been helpful. That's super cool. Thank you for the feedback and the kind words. I really appreciate that. I'm glad that it's useful. The whole goal with this was to try and make something that I wish I had to follow along with when I was learning how to do this stuff. So I'm glad it's useful. Let's see. I have zero experience with programming, just done a little HTML on my own. However, I always found it quite interesting. Yeah, so I would even still say probably start with C. It's gonna, it's not gonna be what I'll call easy, but if you start with C++, you'll definitely get overwhelmed. The lack of syntactic sugar when learning C is great, super helpful. That's what I love about it, right? C is such a relatively simple language that there's not a whole lot to it, which is why it's easy to work with. It compiles fast. There's just some pitfalls and some things that you obviously have to keep in mind, but that's true for any language. All right. So X form position from position rotation scale. Do we have an X form? Oops, not a Z form. X form. X form, we have toString. From string. No? Boo. Okay. Oops. Wrong button. So let me investigate this really quickly, because I could have swore that we had an X form from string somewhere, but apparently not. And this is why I was saying I would keep that function, because I had a feeling we do a string format in here. We're using the unsafe version of that, which we don't need to do anymore. So I can actually go ahead and just return that, get rid of that, get rid of the buffer. Okay. So we are going to have to use scanf in order to handle this, I think. So I guess what I'll do is where was that? Thank you for the follow, by the way. Really good, interesting game. I love the really good, interesting name, rather. Dyslexia caught me there. It's a very funny name, though, I have to admit. Where was? It was towards the bottom, I think. Here it is. So we have this xform config, right? So string to xform config, but I think we can actually use this as the basis for what we need to write. Here we go. Okay. So we want to go here, pass this one, and at the bottom, jam this in, and then uncomment it. And what we're going to do is we don't actually have to return any sort of xform object. The only thing that we need to do is return a k-handle. Right, because xforms only deal with handles. So we don't have to do this. So we only have to check to make sure a string exists. Otherwise, k-handle invalid. Right? Okay, so we don't need to do the zero memory. We do need to include stdio. Let me see where I put that. That needs to be up here. Okay. All right. So it looks like we... right. I forgot about this. Okay, so we have two ways that we can handle this, right? Because scanf basically tells you how many elements it processed, right? We have up to 10 floats that could be processed by this. However, the reason that we feed all of these, the last 7 into value, so we do the first 3 as x, y, z position, right? And we do the last 7 of these into this values array. The reason that we do that is because we might have 6 or 7 of these. If we have 7 of them, that means our rotation is a quaternion. And if we have 9, then that means that we have just a standard Euler rotation. And so that is what this count equals 10 or count equals 9 is if we parse 9, then we treat it as an Euler, which we then, I believe, yeah, we convert it to a quaternion anyways. And then when we write it out, we always treat it as a quaternion right there. Otherwise, we just read it straight up as a quaternion. So let's see. I guess the first thing is going to be we need to do a couple things here. Actually, we need to create a new one. Do we have a good example on how to actually do that? Yeah, we can do, let's take this. You know what? Let's actually take this whole body here and we'll modify it to what we need. Where was that? Here we go. Okay, so we'll go ahead and create a new handle. And then we'll say state positions equals position. Okay, so let's take all of this stuff. Take all of this stuff and go down here. And we'll actually create the handle and all of that after we've successfully parsed this thing, right? You know what? I want to do this a little bit differently, actually. We're going to do it this way and use a Boolean, right? Because this is an operation that can fail. And I don't want to just use invalid handles. That kind of sucks, right? So let's change this to false if it fails. Okay, so let's do vec3 position equals vec3 0. I don't technically have to do that, but just for good measure. Oops. So we'll output those to position directly, and then we'll output everything else to this values array. Then, depending on count, we will either treat it as a quaternion or convert it to a quaternion. So let's do a quats rotation equals quat identity. And then we'll also do a vec3 scale equals vec3, and we're going to default our scale to 1. So we get rid of all of this this pointer business, right? We're just writing directly to the thing. So we can reuse, oops, all of that as necessary. Identity transform will be used. So I guess that's technically a false, but we could still actually, I guess, use it. So let's actually do B8 results equals, I guess we'll default to true, right? And then here we'll say result equals false. And what we'll do, and the reason we're going to do it this way is because this will allow us to say, hey, you know, we've got a invalid string here, but we're going to go ahead and set one up anyways, so that we don't fail. And we should probably do that here too, now that I think about it. So let's actually take, let's take all of this and put it up here. And then say right away, if we don't have a string, then we're going to not bother processing any of this stuff, but we're going to set result, if I could spell it, equals false. Right? Otherwise, we will process the string, which is going to take all of that there. Okay, so if we don't have it, we use the default, and then we say result is false. We don't actually need to do that. Let's do a warning here too. Format error, invalid string provided. Identity transform will be used. Okay. Okay, so we go ahead and we get a new handle. We set the position, rotation, and scale. We set up the local and world matrices. Add it to the dirty list. I think that should be about it, right? So if we attempt to create a transform before the XForm system was, let's call this XForm. Before the system was initialized, there's not much that we can do about that. So we can do out xform equals khandle invalid, right? And return false. Otherwise, we set it equal to handle and return true. All right, so this goes down here. We will export that. Converts, actually creates an xform from the given string. Okay, so param string, the string from which to create the xform should be either x, y, z, quaternion x, quaternion y, quaternion z, quaternion w, scale x, scale y, scale z. Or quaternion Euler rotation. Okay, so we have that, and then finally param out xform a pointer to hold the handle to the newly created xform, and then returns true on success, otherwise false. And I just thought of something that we didn't actually check for. Is lack of the out xform. So if not out xform, not much we can do about it. String to scene xform config requires a valid pointer to out xform. Not much to be done there. This should also be string to, let's actually do xform from string. Okay, so now we have xform to string and xform from string. So now we can actually go back to our scene. And we can do xform from string. Except this isn't returning this, right? This is just going to be so the first thing we needed was the node config xform source, and then we needed the address of xform handle. And if that's not successful, failed to create xform c logs for details. Right, and we're just going to warn about that because we're providing a handle here. So if the handle is not having the handle is the only thing that can cause it to not work at all and not return anything here. So this should be that. Okay. I think we might be done. Maybe. Except for the skybox thing, which I'm sure is not going to build. KSS scene serializer. What did I miss in here? Whoa. Why do I have... Oh, because I changed all of the dingus type names. That's why. Okay. This should mostly be a find and replace. I think that should do it. A lot of it anyway. Oops. Get all these ones since they're the same operation. Unknown is not handled. Do we have a default case in here? I don't remember. No, but we don't, but I'm gonna copy this error message. We don't want to serialize the count number of the enum, you dingus, and same goes for unknown. Stop trying to serialize the unknown member of the enum, you dingus. Okay. Property value get string. Wait a minute. Didn't we... No, I guess not. Okay. Oh, this is not a string anymore. That's why. Get string... as kname, that's what I wanted. Okay, this is going to be that. We just have a few of these to swap out. Okay. Scene serializer is not found. Oh, that is one that should have been not used directly. How is that? What? Absolutely is. Okay. I think that's the IntelliSense being a bananas. Okay. Undeclared function kallocate. Just need memory. Okay, so this is, yeah, That should be fine. Let's see. Okay. So this is a K name, but yet we're getting the attachment name as a string. Why do we need... Oh, okay, we're putting unnamed attachment. Okay, so we can actually just do this. Convert this to a K name as well. And then do K name there, and then do K name as string. Which actually, yeah, okay. So we're just basically doing the opposite of what we were doing before. Serialize attachment. Okay, so, oh. This is half of our errors in here too. Let's go through and knock these out real fast. Find and replace nuke to the case on some of these. Okay. All right, so attachment type. We need case scene node attachment type unknown. And that's also going to have, I think, stop trying to serialize the unknown member of the enum, you dingus. Break. All right. So we got all that. This is going to be the same thing. Just convert it to kname create. Oops, wrong one there. And then this, of course, has to be kname and then as, or no, it's kname as string. There we go. Okay, so this is going to be, if not asset name. Oh, okay, yeah, this is going to be the same thing, so. If we don't have that, then it's going to be kname create. Thank you for the follow. Welcome. Hope you're doing well. Let's see. I have an opportunity to start my first job as a web Java dev. How hard do you think it is to jump into game engine C/C++ dev after a few years with only web Java dev experience? Company is fintech company. Okay, so my general recommendation there is like, think about it this way. If you are getting that because you need to like pay the bills and stuff, then absolutely do that, right? Any experience is good experience. However, obviously Java is not going to go very far in the C++ game engine dev community, right? I mean, it can, but like as far as actually getting a job in that, not so much. So what I would recommend that you do is, take it, but then also work on stuff on the side, in your spare time, and hone your skills that way, and actually make actual projects, make a game or something, make your own renderer, something that shows that you're capable of doing the thing, so that if you do land a job interview somewhere, you can be like, yeah, I'm not doing it professionally right now, but I have this as my portfolio to show you. Here are code samples. you can go to GitHub, download this, and actually run it if you want to, that kind of thing. But yeah, I would definitely, take the job because, the market out there is rough right now, to say the least. So definitely take it and then just do stuff on the side would be my answer there. And if you make stuff on your own that's good enough, many times the interviewers will see that and recognize that. Let's see. I have a question. How do you read game engine architecture? Do you do projects and then use the book as a reference? Because it's not a novel you can read like any other book. Yeah, I mean, it's not a novel, but I have read it cover to cover several times. But I do, since I've read it a couple of times, I do also use it as a reference. When I need to look something up or be like, hey, what did this book say about that? But yeah, I did read it front to back, and I recommend you do the same thing. Will integrated GPU support be added to the engine? It's technically there now. It's just it's technically turned off, but that's totally just a random decision that I made. There's no real need for it. Where was that? Here it is, right here. So if you look in Vulkan device C, and you want to actually use an integrated GPU, so for Apple, we actually have to turn this requirement off because it's Apple machines do usually have a discrete GPU, so or a non-discrete GPU rather, an integrated one, I should say. And so for Apple, we already do have to turn it off. So it's as simple as flipping this Boolean to false. All this is saying is that our requirements for a device is that it be a discrete GPU. If you don't want to do that, you could literally set that to false and it's supported. That's it. I'm probably going to make that a configuration option at some point. In fact, I have right here a to-do for that, but yeah, that's all there really is to it as far as the engine goes. So if you do that, it'll work on a integrated GPU as long as that has the appropriate Vulkan drivers. Okay, so asset name, this needs to be name as string. This is going to wind up being the same thing. All right. And then serialized node. So this is the individual node. So this is also going to be kname and string there. Whoops. Missed something up here. This can also be I think it's actually, this one is string as kname. Right, we're getting it. And then this needs to also be string is kname. Here we have another capitalization issue. So there's that one. That one. This is also going to be kname creates, and then kname. Okay. Looks like all warnings and errors there are done. So let's see what else. Aha. K-resource handler scene is missing something. I thought I got all of these. Oh, right, we added the new type to that. So this needs unknown. Xform system. Result is set but not used. Oh. That is because we need to return result here, not just true. Okay. Scene loader. Okay, so this is the thing that we now need to get rid of, right? So this is the old way to get rid of, or the old way to load scenes, rather. So actually, what I'm going to do, I'm going to comment that out. Actually, I don't need to even do that. I can just go to scene loader, and do I want to comment out the whole file? Because this is the old stuff. Okay. It's probably going to bleat that the... Yeah, let me just kill the header file as well. And that's probably going to complain somewhere along the way. Resource system C. Yeah, that makes sense. So, resource system C. Now we have scene resource loader creates, right? The only one we have left is terrain, right? Which I'm probably, frankly, going to just nuke. What's the error now? Ah, skybox. Okay, we knew that one was coming. So this one is just because the skybox, oops, not what I wanted to do, peak definition. The skybox itself was using a string here, and now it is using a kname. So we don't need the kname create here because it's already a kname. And I think, yeah, we just have deprecation warnings in here, so that's not a huge deal. Okay, unused label, scene save file cleanup. Okay. That's down here. Oh, it's because of this go-to is commented out. All right, I'm going to comment that out too. Oops. What is it bleating about now? Typed attachment is unused. 446. Really? That's unused? Let me... Okay. I'm just going to comment it out for now. We probably are going to need that eventually. Another error. Scene xform config. Scene H237. Oh, okay. Right. This doesn't exist anymore. Yeah. Okay. What have we here? Asset handler scene. Oh, that's probably because of the rename again. Yep. Okay. This might be... No, I don't want to do that. Do we have... core resource types? Oh, right, because this isn't... Right, because it's not called K-asset stuff anymore. I gotta do the find and replace. Which, of course, is going to break a few other things, but those are relatively easy to fix. Gotta add it back in a couple spots. Here as well.
My evenings have been slammed the last few weeks, so have you not been able to catch a stream in a while? Hope the refactor completion is on the horizon.
Hey Diamond, thank you so much for the tier 1 sub for 14 months. I really appreciate that. Yeah, it's actually I was just pointing out that we're on the last item right now. So the last thing that we're doing for this release is we're moving the scene asset handling over to the new system, and then we can rip out the old resource system. So, yeah, we're actually actively working on that right now. I don't know that we're going to get to it to the completion tonight because we're almost out of time for tonight, but we definitely will be done tomorrow. But yeah, thank you so much for the support. Let's see. Time Lord, I appreciate that. How's it going? First time chat. Welcome, by the way. I'm doing well. How are you? Always think of you as the next Casey Muratori. It's not an insult. Sorry if I did. No, it's not. I mean, if anything, it's an insult to Casey, actually. I'm nowhere near as good as he is. But I do appreciate it. I appreciate the sentiment. Okay. So... Okay, we don't have to worry about this anymore because it's not a string anymore. Can we do... Nope. Okay. Case... Scene node attachment type unknown. Nothing to do here. Just ignore it. It's gotta be... Crap. Wrong button. Okay. Why? Why do I keep hitting the wrong button? Okay. There we go. So let's do that one, that one, that one, that one, that one, and that one. Okay, so we don't have to string free that. We don't have to string free this one or this one. Simply zeroing them out is enough. 2 warnings, those can go away. Build. What are we missing? KSS scene deserialize. Okay. Wait. Asset handler. Did we? Ah, okay. Rename Bananary, I think. Yep. And deserialize. Needs that too. Whoops. Okay. Testbed. Okay, so testbed is what kicks off the actual load, right? So that's not surprising that that is broken. But at least that's all localized in one part of the code. Actually, isn't there a load main scene? Yeah, it should be here. Okay, so this is the old resource system. So this is the stuff that we're ripping out. So all I really need to do I need to think this through, because the way the old resource system worked, it was synchronous, right? So you could say resource system load, and then by the time this actually does the thing and returns this, at that point it actually is considered loaded. But the new system should always be considered asynchronous because it will be jobified at some point. Next release, I think, is when I'm going to do that. So we will get a pointer back to it, but it won't necessarily be loaded. So what we're going to have to do is do a resource request with a callback as to when the thing is actually loaded. And then in that is where we're going to actually do the scene creation and initialization and all that stuff. So what we're going to do is, let's see, maybe I can set that up really quickly. We'll see. Let's try. But like I said, I am pretty much out of time tonight. K resource system request. Do we have inst? No. Let's just do it the engine systems gets K resource states. The thing we want to load is K name create, and that's going to be test scene. And then we need to construct the resource request info. So K resource scene request info. Right, and let's just plug that in here so that we can get rid of this error. So we want the address of request info. Did I? Oh yeah, I've got to cast that. K resource request info pointer. Okay. Obviously, if this fails to do anything whatsoever, actually, wait a minute. Let's not do it that way. Let's do K resource scene. We're going to call it scene resource. I guess that's fine. We need to cast that K resource scene. Okay. And then we just say if we don't get scene resource. Failed to request scene resource, see logs for details, return false. Oh, we have ads anyway, so I can't end right this minute. Okay, so the request info. Let's see, so assets is going to be okay. Let me think. We want one asset, right? Then we'll do, what was this type again? Array k resource asset info. Wait a minute. And we're going to take the address of request info base assets data sub 0. All right. So we're going to do that. But before we fill that out, request info base type equals resource type scene. Okay, we are going to need a callback, right? I suppose we could make this a synchronous request. You know what? I'm going to do that. All right. I just want to see if this works. Okay, I don't need the other stuff yet. So, all right, so asset type equals k asset type scene. Name is going to be k name create test scene. Package name is going to be k name create it's going to be in the testbed package, and we don't need to watch for hot reload. Okay, so we should be able to take that. We can get rid of all this stuff. I'm going to comment it out right now instead of actually getting rid of it until we verify that it works. So we want scene resource passed here. I think that's it. Seems a little bit too simple for that to be it, but let's try it. Yeah, okay. I'm not surprised that doesn't work. Our serializer needs updating. It's probably something stupid and small. I'm going to try really quickly. It's probably this one. Error parsing. Okay. This way I can actually get a breakpoint and find out exactly what it's trying to parse. Nodes. Okay. So actually I'm just going to fix this right here. that should be array. I'm willing to bet, I'll bet attachments is going to be the same thing. Okay, all right. So there's other things going afoot, going awry here. So I'm going to pick this back up. I probably will solve this in 5 minutes after the stream ends, I would imagine. But we have made decent progress. So we'll be able to check that off on stream tomorrow. And yeah, that's pretty much where we're gonna end tonight. Let me just catch up on chat real quick, and then we'll find somebody to raid. Big chillin', Jan, you're a huge inspiration, just like Casey's Handmade series. I appreciate the kind words, but yeah, it's this one isn't as anywhere near on that level for sure. I'm in the same boat. I do a lot of business oop, as I call it. I have to do the same thing. Yep. Professional game dev is a little tough to break into, IMO, but if you really want to do it, then you might have to learn it in your free time. Exactly what I was saying earlier. Yep. That's what I do, and it actually makes me really happy. And then I get to program what I'm passionate about. What I like to do is put on a Twitch stream of somebody programming, pop up some lo-fi, and work on a topic to do in my free time. Yeah, exactly. And this channel actually has both. Lo-fi in the background and a stream. But anyway, I digress. So that's where we're going to leave it for tonight. Let me find somebody to raid. Before I do, if you guys haven't followed already, I would greatly appreciate a follow, either on the YouTube side or the Twitch side. Those follows really help me out, so I really appreciate them. And I already know who I'm going to raid. We are going to raid my good buddy Spiro. And he looks like he's doing GigaChad things over there with Compiler Explorer. Looks like he's analyzing some assembly, so that should be interesting. But yeah, he's working on a project that uses, his engine's written in C, and then compiled to WebAssembly, and he's using the browser as his renderer. So definitely a different take on things there. But anyways, thank you guys so much. And I will catch you guys on the next stream. See ya.